Meridith Elliott Powell.
Accenture just produced a report that said the pace of change has increased 183% in the last 4 years. But I want you to realize that right there changes everything. That makes this an economy like none of us have ever lived in, worked in, or tried to grow a business in before. So if you are going to thrive in uncertainty, you are going to need to shift how you think about uncertainty. More importantly, you are going to need to lead differently in today's marketplace. Uncertainty is going to produce one emotion in you, your team members, and your customers: fear. The moment that fear is present in the people that work for you, it moves them to the side of their brain that shuts down innovation and creativity. What if we flipped the script on that? What if we started thinking about uncertainty as a positive, something that not only didn't prevent growth, but actually propelled it?
She's the guru of marketing.
Over-exceeded all my expectations.
I was able to discover 9 companies that have been in business since the late 1700s, early 1900s, and they are still in business, thriving today. If you want to be successful in today's marketplace, you need to go out, talk to 10 of your existing customers. Don't sell them a thing, just ask them questions. And then I just want you to listen. Really, really listen, because they are about to give you gold.
As a veteran salesman, I learned so much today.
You need to realize in this world, the greatest asset you have is in this room right now. It is community. Because at the end of the day, it is the relationships, it is the connections, it is the people that you know that will carry you through.
That really stuck in my mind, because if you want to last in this business, you have to look, see around the corner to see how you're going to survive and thrive going forward.
If you condition yourself for change, if you secure your base, be relevant, and solve the right problem, and you shed fast and you keep moving, but you are going to turn all of this uncertainty into your competitive advantage, and you are going to leave your competition in the dust. So if we are struggling as leaders, if we are struggling as business owners to deal with all of this change and uncertainty, imagine what our employees are going through. Imagine what our team members are feeling. And then imagine how much that is costing you in lost productivity and your ability to really grow your business and hit your goals in 2025. Well, you don't have to imagine, because the statistics, they tell a pretty powerful story. Accenture just produced a report that said the pace of change has increased 183% in the last 4 years. And in the last year alone, things are moving 33% faster. A third faster than they moved just a year ago. And all the research says, put your seatbelt on, because it is going to do nothing but increase. 86% of employees today believe that they are overwhelmed, burned out, and that their employers are not doing enough to help them learn to navigate this pace of change. And of those 86% employees, 26%, while you're listening to me, they're looking for another opportunity where they believe it won't be as overwhelming and as challenging. And when you think about all that, it has dramatic bottom line results. Stress and anxiety, overwhelm and burnout in the workplace is costing U.S. businesses today $300 billion annually. So if you are going to thrive in uncertainty, and let me tell you, I believe 2025, I don't care what is coming at you, it can be your best year on record, but you are going to need to shift how you think about uncertainty. More importantly, you are going to need to lead differently in today's marketplace, because those statistics tell you this is a very different marketplace. And you are going to need a plan, you are going to need a strategy that you have so much confidence in that no matter what 2025 holds, you are sure, you can feel it in your bones, you are headed for your best year on record. Now, luckily for you, I got you for the next hour and a half. And in the next hour and a half, we are going to reveal the strategies, well-researched plan that you need to leave this room feeling confident about the marketplace, but more importantly, leave this room with a plan and a strategy to build a team that is mentally fit, powerfully resilient, and competitively strong. How does that sound? All right. Now, I am going to work to be funny. I am going to work to be entertaining. I am going to work to be engaging. But that is not my point up here today. I will have succeeded if you leave this room knowing exactly what to do when it comes to disruption and change in the marketplace. If you leave this room understanding that it isn't about having the best product and service, it is about being the best leader out there, the one who has the ability to make your team feel confident in the face of dramatic uncertainty, then we have done our job. Now, before I dive into these strategies, I want to back up and I want to help you understand where I came up with these strategies. And more importantly, far more importantly, why I can guarantee you these strategies work. See, a couple of years ago, long before we worried about war in Europe, long before we got all bent out of shape about interest rates, I became obsessed with the word uncertainty. How we think about it, how we feel about it, how we react to it. And guess what? You don't like that word. You don't like it at all. In fact, my research says that you'd rather I stand up here for the next hour and a half and tell you every bad thing that is going to happen in the next year so that you can run back to your office this afternoon, you can get a plan, and you can start to figure out how to deal with the bad things that are coming. You would rather do that rather than have me stand up here and tell you, I got no idea, good or bad, what is coming at you. And that uncertainty, not only in you, but in your team, produces so much anxiety and stress that it is the fear of the unknown, not the unknown, that prevents you from reaching your full potential. And I thought, what if you flipped the script on that? What if you just decided right here in this room, right now, today, that uncertainty was a positive? What if you just decided that you have no idea what 2025 holds, but you believe it is going to be your best year on record? What if you believed and made the decision today that you could build a team around you that didn't fear change, but actually was excited about it and saw it as their opportunity? How much could you accomplish? What could you produce? How much could you transform your own business and your industry? And that put me on a mission. I thought, I wonder if there are leaders out there. I wonder if there's anybody we could learn from who has already done this. Let me tell you, there are not many. The reason that uncertainty is your greatest competitive advantage is because most of your competitors will pull back. If you are the leader who leans in, you have the market opportunity. But I dug deep. I was able to find 9 companies, 9 leaders who had built businesses that had grown consistently over the last 250 years. Now let that sink in. Go back to your high school history class and think about the last 250 years and what this country has been through. That means they have grown businesses, built teams through world wars. Imagine growing a business when you have no idea if your way of life is even going to be here. They have built businesses, grown organizations, not in economic recession, but in economic depressions. And they haven't survived one pandemic. They have thrived through 2 pandemics. And I wanted to know why. What makes an individual mentally fit? What makes a leader able to build a team that is powerfully resilient? And what makes a leader able to build a business that is so competitively strong when all the odds are stacked against them? They make it to the other side, not surviving, but thriving out the other side, when most organizations, most leaders completely disappear. And for the last 6 years, I have been studying that. I have been researching this. So this isn't a plan that some motivational speaker thinks is going to work for you. This is backed up by 250 years worth of research. Companies that have survived way bigger challenges than you have ever seen. And today, I'm going to reveal all of those strategies. And all you have to do is implement them one by one. Now, there's one last thing before I dive into these strategies, before I reveal them step by step. If you do not leave this room shifting how you think about uncertainty, if you do not walk back into your office believing that 2025 is your best year on record, if you do not leave here believing that all the disruption that is coming at you is a good thing, uncertainty is going to produce one emotion in you, your team members, and your customers. Anybody guess what that emotion is? Fear. Exactly. Let me tell you why you do not want fear present. The moment that fear is present in the people that work for you, it moves them to the side of their brain that shuts down innovation and creativity. The very skills you are going to need them to have in 2025 will not be available to them because they're afraid. It's going to shut down engagement. At a time when your margins get skinnier and skinnier, your team is going to give you less rather than give you more. And all of that is a recipe to negatively drive down your bottom line results. But here is the cool thing. If you make the decision right now that uncertainty is a good thing, that you are the leader, that you got this, that you and your team are headed for great things, it is going to unlock innovation and creativity, not only in you, but it is like this infectious energy that comes off of you, and everybody that works for you sees a problem, and they are going to come up with ideas that are so brilliant to move beyond those obstacles. It is going to drive engagement. If 2025 is the worst year you ever had, if people believe you have a plan for uncertainty, they are going to give you more than they have ever given you before. And that is going to take your results to another level. Uncertainty is your greatest competitive advantage if you lead yourself through it and you lead your team through it. All right, I have left you waiting long enough. If you guys can give me a Minneapolis drum roll, please, I will reveal these strategies one by one. Now, I realize today I've got a mix in this audience. Some of you are leaders leading other people. Some of you are individual contributors. This content applies to all of you because the best thing that could happen in your company is that you not only lead people this way, but they lead themselves this way so that everybody in the organization feels ownership and responsibility for learning how to build a mentally fit, powerfully resilient, and competitively strong mindset. And if you want to do that, if you want to really thrive in uncertainty, if you want disruption to be your greatest breakthrough, you have got to begin by understanding where you are headed and where you are going. In other words, we call this strategy that you have got to be a leader who leads with a relentless vision. Please note that is not a vision. It is a relentless vision. It is not the vision that is on your website that you spent 3 days wordsmithing, you stuck on a wall in the employee break room, and nobody ever looks at again. This is a vision you are so focused on that when obstacles show up, your mind finds a way to achieve that vision. Probably the coolest and most interesting thing that I have learned from the research that I have done, success is not logical. It is not logical at all. The person in here, the leader in here that is going to thrive in uncertainty, the business that is going to grow the most, it is not the business with the best market share, with the best product, even the one with the most resources. It is the business with the leader who has a clearly defined vision and is relentlessly focused on that vision and gets every team member focused on that vision. Why? Because your mind will find what it focuses on. Every single one of you, if I take you back through your life, you can think of a time when the obstacle in front of you was too big, but somehow you achieved it. And the way that you achieved it was by focusing on the dream. Let me give you an example. And it's an example of a group of kids going whitewater rafting in Northern California. And I know you're looking at me thinking, what the heck does whitewater rafting have to do with running a business? But if you hang with me, I swear this is going to be relevant, okay? So these kids were going whitewater rafting in Northern California, and they had planned this trip like for more than a year. And as luck would have it, just a couple of weeks before they were set to go down the river, Northern California experienced torrential downpour. So much rain that the class 2 and 3 rapids became class 4 and 5 rapids, literally making the river unrunnable. The guide suggested to these kids they not go down the river. But you know kids, they begged and they pleaded until the guide gave in. Now, she gave in on one condition. She said, you can go down this river. I will take you down this river if you sit through a safety talk. Now, how many of you have been whitewater rafting? Yeah, sit through a safety talk. What is it? 10, 15 minutes. They slap a jacket, kick you down the river, right? This was not like that. For 3 hours, these kids sat through a safety talk. 3 hours, this guide went through every obstacle they would hit on the river. She went over the downed trees, the high water, the hidden rocks. But she said, as much as I want you to focus, I don't want you to go into troubled waters, not aware of what's there. But if I leave you focused on the obstacles, your raft will be pulled there like a magnet. So lean in, because this is what is relevant for you. This is what has to do with business. She explained it like this. She said, again, I'm going to make you aware of every obstacle that you're going to see. But as soon as I focus you on the obstacle, I'm going to move your eyes to the calm water, the relentless vision, where the raft needs to go. You will have no idea how your raft winds up there, but somehow you wind up in calm water. Your business works exactly the same way. You have got to get yourself and your team focused on what is possible. And anybody in here who has been whitewater rafting has had that experience. You are headed for that rock. You know you are going to hit it. You shift your focus, and somehow you wind up in the calm water. 2% of our population, 2, are visionaries. They can see into the future. 12% are strategic thinkers. The rest of us, we are tactical. We can only see what is right in front of us. That is when change and uncertainty show up, we get stuck because it looks like too big an obstacle to get through. I need you as a leader to show me what is possible. I need you to cast the vision so that I understand when it looks impossible to me, why I should keep going. You know, probably the best example of this, I think, in history is Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Now, I have no idea, none, what it was like to fight for civil rights, but I can take a guess. I bet if I went back and talked to people during that period, it was 1 step forward, 15 steps back. At times, I'm sure they wanted to give up. The price was too high. They didn't even know if they would ever accomplish the goal. But in that speech, Martin Luther King Jr. painted the picture. He showed people what was possible. And that possibility turned on intrinsic motivation. People didn't need to know the how they were going to get there. They just needed to know what they could accomplish. And as a leader, you have to relentlessly focus that team. What does that mean? I live in Asheville, North Carolina. If you came home with me and got up with me in the morning, the very first thing you would see, I don't look anything like this. In fact, it would take you a couple of hours to even recognize me. But when you did, you would see that I head up to my office. And the very first thing I do is open my desk drawer and I read my vision. Where I see my life, where I see my business, where I see my finances, my health a year from now. I read it again at lunch and I read it again before I shut my office down at night. Why? Because this is wired for negativity. This is wired to see every threat and every reason I will never make it. I got to train it first to find the opportunity. And then I do the same thing with my team. I got to get me in shape first. And then 3 times a day, my team hears the vision from me. And I want them to be able to echo the vision back. You got to root in hope and belief. So that's the foundation. That's the piece you have got to start with. You have got to believe that success is possible, and you have got to talk about that success. You've got to help your team see the great things that you are headed for, and they will begin to innovate, create, and come up with ideas to get you there.